In the winter we sometimes let the goats into this whole orchard system and they don't do much damage to the established fruit trees and tend to concentrate on eating the evergreen leguminous interplants, especially this Tagasaste, which they love just about more than any other plant. So this is probably the most important pastoral innovation in Australian farming. This is as important as the subclover super revolution of the 1930s and 40s that doubled agricultural productivity across southern Australia. By just spreading a bag of super to the acre and getting the inoculated subclover, suddenly all the degraded native pastures were stabilised and huge productivity increase that led to Australia being said to ride on the sheep's back. So this is a tree fodder, of course, and this was introduced into Australia and New Zealand in 1903, called tree lucerne. Its its native name is Tagasaste. It comes from the Canary Islands in the Atlantic, from one island actually, La Palma. And it's about like the most palatable and protein-rich shrub you can imagine. All animals love it, from slugs up to elephants. And it has a pod like a wattle and then produces a hard seed, and those hard seeds fall on the ground, and like the wattles, chooks can eat them and get the protein out of them by grinding them up with the stones in their gizzard, whereas the hard seeds of course just travel through a normal grazing animal. So this is probably our most valuable winter fodder. You can see how this tree has been cut back repeatedly and all regrown. So these are through the orchard and also down the public road reserve there. So just to give you an indication, the best clover ryegrass pastures in southern Australia yield about 12 to 14 tonnes of edible dry matter per hectare per annum. And that's like on the best dairy country down in Gippsland, say around Warragul. At the Warragul Dairy Research Institute, the early trials with this in the 1980s showed that with 3 cuts of shrubs, they were getting 30 tonnes of edible dry matter per hectare per annum. Now the place where this really took off was in Western Australia on sand country, where this tripled and quadrupled the carrying capacity of that land compared with annual legumes. It's tricky for farmers to manage because ringbark, overgrazing shrubs is really tricky compared with pasture. And there's about 64,000 hectares of direct sown Tagasaste in the west, but here it hasn't sort of really taken off. And one of the things is people tried to grow it on soils that are waterlogged in winter. It must have free draining soils. But it's like the designer species for this, for small scale systems with goats and whatever, and they never say no to this. Mind you, we probably shouldn't feed it to them as a pure diet. There's some indication of some imbalances that can happen with that, which makes sense with all things.